Hello, everyone. I'm Peter Freer. I am the founder and CEO of Play Attention, and I wore my kind of spring pastel shirt just to fit in with the moment. You are at Overwhelmed to Moving Forward. We want to look at a spring reset for ADHD, and I really appreciate you coming. I started this company in 1994, and there was a reason. Same reason we're here today. I actually had a student named John. I was a teacher. I had a specialty areas in physics, science, mathematics, and computer programming. And John had ADHD, although I had no clue what to do with him. And there was really, that name was not in use much. I think it was either um, minimal brain dysfunction, or sometimes it was right at that point, ADD. Um, Whatever it was called, John's parents didn't understand it either. And uh, when they could not get him to cooperate at home, um, he absolutely just couldn't behave correctly. And his dad, this was rural Appalachia, and so his dad used the belt on him a lot, and it wasn't working. Of course, it wouldn't work. It's not sensible to do that. And John was given to me as a sixth grade teacher because I was a male. I was the only male in that hall, and they felt that having a male would, provide more discipline. So I put him next to my desk to get better uh, interaction with him, proximity control, so he'd work because he's sitting next to me. And we were doing really well. I'd increased his reading and his math scores, but it wasn't enough at home. So one day he came in and put his head down, and it was it was awful because I said, "Are you sick?" And he said, "No," but his eyes were bloodshot. I said, "So what's the matter?" He goes, "My mom put me on medicine." I said, "Well, if you're not sick, why are you on medicine?" He said, "I don't know. They just put me on medicine." They never could get it right. So this child, John, was so funny, smart, and all of a sudden he is more of a zombie. He's sleepy, hard time holding his head up. It was just awful. It broke my heart, actually. It was awful. So I began to research. I had a bunch of skills. Why didn't I put them together and do something for John? And so at that point, you have to be very naive when you think like that. And I absolutely started on that road. And I found that NASA was using neurotechnology to train astronauts to be able to stay in the zone um, when they were in states of hyperarousal, when it was really crazy things happening in the cockpit, or in states of hypoarousal where they were just bored out of their minds. And I enhanced it and received patents for it. And that turned into Play Attention. And they invited me to speak on their behalf of the National Space Society. But well, it took me 6, 7, 8 years of research and development to make it. And I watched John float in and out of jail and drug abuse and things like that. And I was too late to get to him. But that's what started it all. So I've been at this for 30 years. I wanted you to know who the heck you're talking to today. And I've been around a long time, so I know what you're experiencing. I know what it means to actually try to get a reset from feeling overwhelmed. I totally understand this. So I do want everyone here to understand that I don't want to be a talking head here, like we're watching a news network. I want to make this interactive. So I want you to be part of it. There are a lot of us here. So I'm going to do my best to make this interactive and try to elicit some response from you so that we can share together with the group. You'll be totally anonymous. No one will know anything, maybe they're in your first name. But it's important to be able to share so that we have a community here right now that's able to talk to each other. So one of the best ways to learn to share, by the way, is to be in the moment. So if you can, um, if it's noisy, turn the noise down. If your TV's blaring, turn it down. If you're doom scrolling through YouTube, stop. If you're answering texts or emails, stop. Be in the moment. Share with everyone else because your concern, you're going to find this is quite interesting. Your concerns or not just you being alone in that world. Like I said, I want to hear from you. So this is the first question for you. Why am I here? Why am I here? Is it because of procrastination, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I want to help my child, or I want to help myself? All of these: motivation, father focus. So would you type in the chat? Why are you here today? And I want to share that among everyone here so that we're all together and on the same page. Jill says it's procrastination and feeling overwhelmed. Hannah says feeling overwhelmed. Alina says feeling overwhelmed. And this is with a lot of people: overwhelmed. Sandra, overwhelmed. Yeah. Colin says, I'm helping myself. That makes sense too. Absolutely. Gregory, all of the above. Good. Keep them coming. Wendy, to help me, help my students in the best way possible. Brilliant. Toby, overwhelmed. Elaine, all of the above. Keep them coming. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. I won't be able to read them all because there's several hundred people here today. Get moving finally through overwhelmed, Robert says. Kimberly says, help myself when procrastinating and feeling overwhelmed. Volunteer work. Perfect. All right. One of the reasons I wanted you to share that, now there's still a bunch coming in, right? Gavin says, I'm overwhelmed myself, needing to help my son focus. Kimberly, help myself. All right. So the reason I wanted you to share all of that is because if you feel like this only happens to you, you're wrong. Did you just hear? We have several hundred people here, and you hear everybody piping in. All of it's resonating. You aren't alone. This is a common human condition, especially in the ADHD brain. So we share these similar struggles. And that's important because if you feel like you're all in this all by yourself, it can get kind of lonely, can't it? Can I get and do you understand that? Does it feel sometimes that when you're on your own that it's an incredibly lonely position? If it is, raise your hand. Thank you. All right, let's discuss what we do about this, right? So if you're in overwhelm, it's not laziness, right? It's not a character flaw. So even though we like to criticize ourselves a lot, is that also making sense to you? We over criticize and judge ourselves. It's not laziness. It's overloaded executive function system. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. Many of you probably know what this is. Some of you may not know at all. So I'm going to discuss it a little bit. I'm going to discuss it in a different way today because I work with the automotive industry. The people, the car that you're in now will likely have my technology in it in the near future. So I work with car makers, and we have a headrest. And I actually have one behind me, but since my background's blurred, you can't see it. And without touching me, it reads the brain, my brain, and tells me if I'm in a state of cognitive load or cognitive overload. And in a car, that's super important. Many of the manufacturers are incredibly concerned with it because if you get overloaded by the engineering they have in the car, by your trip, whatever, you're trying to text and drive, they don't want you to have an accident in their car. And so I'm particularly working with my technology, not only in play attention, but with car manufacturers. So when you get into your car, if you looked at cognitive load in a curve, when you get in your car and you're driving, you're already at the top of the curve because it takes so many of the skills that are in executive function to drive, right? So you're already at the top of that load. So you don't have a lot of wiggle room until you start getting overloaded, overwhelmed, what we are calling it today. So we work on evaluating that so you can get a warning. And that's part of the technology use. But the key to this here is executive function. Is like everybody use these I know my wife uses them a lot, but they're grocery bags. I don't buy that many groceries, but but when she buys groceries, she has these reusable grocery bags. So if you have that reusable grocery bag and you pile in initiation, organization, planning, emotional regulation, working memory, self-checking, and sustained attention, that's the bag that everything, you throw it all in there, and that's the executive function bag. Is that making sense? Executive functions are what help our brain function well, right? So when we're at the top of the bar already when we get into the car, it's kind of like that every day for you if you're in an overwhelm. Every day, every little thing seems more difficult. And we'll go into why this actually occurs. But it's not a problem of character or your willpower or laziness. It's that system, your brain system, is simply overwhelmed. It's not ready to handle this. And a lot of times people will look at you and go, just do it, right? It's like a Nike commercial. Just do it. Well, if it were that easy, everybody would do it, but it's not that easy. You know that. You can't just do it, right? You often will say to yourself, I know what to do, but I just can't do it. And that's the result. So this webinar is designed to assist you. All right. This is going to set a little pattern for you so you understand what to do. All right. So it's not a willpower problem. That last bullet point's important. It's not a willpower problem. It is a problem of executive function. It's a brain-based challenge. Does that make sense? If at any time you have a question during this, type it in. If I don't get to it now, because there are a lot of us here, I will get to it a little bit later. All right. Now, this cycle is something that we all feel. And the reason that I'm offering this up to you is so that we can get a deeper understanding of what is happening in our brain. Because if we understand what is happening, we can reframe it, we can refresh it, we can get a new start. So the critical point in this part of our webinar is that we understand what this cycle is. So I'm in if you look at the very top, I'm in a state of overwhelm. I'm already at my peak daily, but then just the littlest thing sets me over the edge. And so I start avoidance. Let's say I have a challenge, and it's spring cleaning, and I have a challenge to clean out my closet. So I start to pull out things, and I look at that. This is way too much. And so that project it's gone. I avoid it. Not going to do it. I'm already in overwhelm. Well, then I start thinking about that, and I walk in there, and it looks like a hurricane's hit it. And I was like, oh, you should do it. You really should do it. Why aren't you doing it? And I'm expressing guilt. So that leads to more stress because I'm not doing it. As guilty as I feel, I'm still not going to do it. I just can't do it. So that even makes me think about doing it less. So I'm going back to avoidance now. I'm not going to even go in the closet. Maybe real quickly, I'm not going in there. Not much. I have so less action. And then I have more overwhelm. And you see how the cycle just repeats over and over and over again. How many of us here are stuck in this loop? Be honest. I will not mention your name. Just hand up or type in yes, me, or something like that. It's fine. Yeah. That's the vast majority of us here. Absolutely. So it may not be your closet. Could be something else you're avoiding. Right? It could be a project at work you've avoided, and you wait to the last minute, and then your boss is furious with you because it's not ready. Then you get it ready, and he's not furious. He's furious because it's just garbled. Cameron says, "Yep," and it makes it harder when it's you and your kid together. Absolutely, Cameron. Good point. When it's you and you see it in your child, and it drives you both crazy. Yet you're in this loop and we can't break out. So how do we break out? That's part of the discussion today, right? Recognizing it is crucial, though, right? Recognizing it is crucial, right? The reason I'm here, we recognize. Let's look at it humorously, right? Here's my closet. I got spring cleaning to do. ADHD spring cleaning sometimes means making 3 piles, right? So I make 3 piles, and then I find an old photo that brings back memories, and I sit there on the bed and I'm looking at that thing, and then you know what? While I'm thinking about that, I could sure use a snack. So I go in and grab an apple or a banana, and then I end up with finally at the end of a few hours, I end up having one organized drawer and 12 emotional support objects on the bed. Is that making sense? Now it's funny, it's kind of humorous, but is that it? Is that what we do? I can tell you, I know that's what most of you do. You know that's what you do. Just got to be honest and see it. All right. But as we saw in that previous diagram, the cycle, it is something that doesn't come by putting more pressure on yourself. If we try to put more pressure on ourselves, then I just shut down. You just shut down. So change doesn't come from more pressure. It comes from better support. Now that support's going to start with you. You are going to be the first part of your support team. And I'm going to talk to you more about support today from us on this end as well, what we can do to help support you. But the first part is so that you come to an understanding of what's happening, how your brain is operating. And then we start to reframe and get our fresh start. So if you put more pressure on yourself, just know the moment you see this, stop. Because more pressure or more self-criticism absolutely does not help. If you have structure, right, you can reduce decision fatigue. By being structured, you can reduce decision fatigue. We'll talk about how to do that. Support that provides accountability, right? For support provides you achieve something, and it doesn't have to be. And we're going to talk about this in depth in just a moment, but we don't want you to think that you have to do a ton, because if you think you have to do a ton, right, you can't eat the elephant all at one time. It has to be such that we set a small achievable goal. And we'll talk about that more. Support means that you're going to get small wins that will rebuild your confidence, that you can trust yourself to make these small achievements. And when you add a few small achievements up, it's a big achievement. Remember this. Support means no more self-criticism. You'll be your best support agent by doing that. But you're going to provide some structure that's going to reduce your decision fatigue, that you have too much on your mind, can't make the choices. We simplify that. Support also provides accountability that you are going to achieve, and it will be measurable. You will see it. You will be accountable for that. You'll get small wins that rebuild your confidence, your trust in yourself. Right? And then we're going to repeat that process. Our repetition of it, of realistic action, realistic goals, over trying to be perfection. There is no such thing as perfection. It's this imaginative goal. Oh, it's just absolute perfection. Well, for a person with ADHD, you try to get to be perfect. You try to. You want to please everybody else. You're trying to please that your person inside who is screaming that I am so overwhelmed. I need perfection. And that just builds up more pressure. And then that whole cycle just continues. So we have to be realistic over our actions. This is key. Rita typed in a great question here. How can those of us who have a spouse ask help from them? Do you have a program or some instruction for spouses who want to help be part of our solution? That is a great question. And I know many of us here are in relationships, and it's difficult for the other side, if they don't have an ADHD brain, to even start to understand this. One of the ways, Rita, that can help is we're recording this webinar. And I think if you don't mind, you can get your other half to take a look at it so they understand you more. But that's only part of the equation. You have to be able to express yourself better as well. And we do have programs for that. So you can instruct spouses and you can work together. We have programs for that. And I'll talk about them at the end because that is a really important question. I am really glad that you asked that. And we could, how many people here would like that as part of another webinar? Anyone interested in that? How to work with your spouse so that your significant other, right? How do you do it? And if you want, it will be a couples webinar, right? Well, that's a lot of us. That's great. All right, we'll do that. That will be an upcoming webinar. Keep your eyes open for that as well. All right, very good. Okay, so the one thing that you have been meaning to restart, think of that one thing. All right, write it down. So at the very bottom, you see, think of one thing you have been missing to start, restart, or finish. Write it down. This is your spring reset target. Right. Oh, and Kamisha said you may want to include how to work with a spouse who may have rejection sensitivity connected to ADHD. Now, I have done in the past, Kamisha, and hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I think it would be good if you reviewed that. And if you want, we can send you a link to that webinar because if you show that to your significant other, they will understand you far better. Because I did a whole webinar on rejection sensitivity dysphoria. But that's also a great idea. We could include that in that spouses webinar. Absolutely. Okay. So right here, we will send you the link to that commission. Absolutely. So write down your spring reset target for me. You can put it in the chat. You can put it on a sheet of paper next to you if you don't want to share it. But Kamisha, okay. I was close. Kamisha, thank you. All right. And single parents will be included in that, Cameron. Absolutely. So we deal with more extreme burnout. Absolutely. Diet for health and weight. Oh, we're getting a lot of a lot of good suggestions here. All right. So your spring reset target, diet for health and weight, finish recovering my health. Yes, we will not be sharing the slides, Barbara, but we will, this whole recording will be a link to it will be sent to you so you can actually see what we were doing today, review what we were doing today. Getting my will done. Okay. So this is your spring reset target. Now, how do we get there? That's the question. How do we get there? That's the hardest part, right? Starting. How do we get there? We're going to use the PCCAR. PCCAR. Right? Pause. By pausing, what we're doing is saying we're going to stop that Do you remember the Peanuts cartoon, right? Remember Pigpen? Pigpen always had that swirl of dust around him, right? That's our swirl. We have a swirl going on around us, and we've got to stop the swirl. Take a pause. Stop the swirl. Notice what is happening. Because that's the first part of this whole webinar, right? Is that we become aware of what is happening. That was the whole first part. And I hope we did together discover what is really happening. We are aware of it. Notice, become aware of what's really happening. Now, 2, we go to clear. Clear, reduce the noise. What matters most right now? We're going to clear our slate. And by doing that, we're doing it not by trying to push everything out. We're going to take our magnifying glass like a detective, and we're going to put that right over what matters most right now. What matters most right now? That's the clear. Pause, clear, put our magnifying glass on what matters most right now. Notice I'm saying this calmly. We're going to take deep breaths while we do this. We're going to choose. Pick one realistic next step. Most of you just did. I'm going to get my will done. All right. I'm going to get my play attention assignments done. I love that, Jennifer. And I know who you are, Jennifer. I know who you are. That's a good idea. I'll do a volunteer project, Kimberly says. All right, so you choose one realistic next step. Now, act. Do that step, not the whole mountain. If it's a volunteer project, set aside what it is that you want to do. Do I want to be at the mission kitchen, right? Do I want to be handing out food to the homeless? Or one simple step. Don't have to do the whole mountain. And the first step, if I'm going to do a helpful project like that, I'm going down tomorrow, and I'll make time to do that, and I'll find out what it's going to take. Jim says, I need to get back in my play attention on a regular basis. One step at a time. Take it out, blow the dust off of it, and do one game. That's simple act. I'm not going to do an entire session. If you want to do more than the one, fine. But I think it was Genghis Khan. It may have been somebody else, but I think Genghis Khan said, the journey of 10,000 miles begins with a single step, and that's the key. All right. One single step, and then repeat that step. Take the next step. So you just want to be consistent. We don't need perfection. We don't need intensity. We just want to take that little step and take one more little step. And those little steps will add up to something that you never imagined you could do. But you can. You just have to pause, clear, choose, act, and repeat. Now, Alina said, consistency is the toughest for me. Which feels the hardest? Which step feels the hardest? And Alina says, it's definitely consistency, right? So once you do that first step, immediately choose your next step. I just did play attention today, and I did one game. I'll do one more. Concentration, Kimberly says concentration is the difficult one. All right. Choose, pick one realistic next step. That's right. Pause and clear. Pause and clear are Gavin's toughest ones. One little step in that direction, Gavin. Stop the swirl, Take a few deep breaths. Notice how your brain's acting. Be aware of it. Then that's going to help you clear because you know the noise. And then you can take the next step. Now, if you are unable to do this by yourself, I'm going to give you several things toward the end, several suggestions and some actual support. I have a whole support team. They are brilliant. And we can help with that. I'll talk to you about that. Remember, and this, Gavin, I think this would apply to you just a little bit. You can't think your way out of it. You've been trying for years, and it's probably everybody here. Be honest with ourselves. You can't think your way out of it. Because the more you think about it, the more fear builds up, the more anxiety builds up, the more you pressure yourself, the more you criticize yourself. Thinking usually is your worst enemy here. Sometimes it's just building a skill. Right? Fresh start requires more than just good intentions. For example, the first bullet point here, reminders, planners, good intentions help, but only so far. How many people here have used planners? I mean, they do help. I've suggested them before, but then after a while, you just get tired of using them and you quit using them. And why is that? So some of us just don't have the memory to go back and think about using it, right? So they only go so far. You still have to have some structure to make that happen. So if executive function skills are weak, your follow through stays hard. So you can't think your way out of it. This is the important bullet point here. The important bullet point is if your executive function skills are weak, remember all the skills we dropped in that bag? Working memory, planning, organization, self-checking, emotional regulation, impulse control. They're all in that bag. If they're weak, even one of them is weak, it gets tough to do. So overall, one of the first things we have to do is build the skills that help us regulate all of this. Directly strengthening attention and executive function changes the equation. Absolutely does. This is where the play attention fits in the spring reset. You know, I told you about John, and I was too late for John. It took me years to develop this. But now I have it in the hands of people who need it and who get these resets, who are able to do the resets. Imagine what play attention does for those of you who are not familiar. Play attention is neurotechnology, so it allows your brain to regulate the screen. You actually see what your brain's doing in real time, and therefore you gain accountability, you sharpen skills, and you understand what you're capable of. That was why I built it. That's why they were using it at NASA to train astronauts. And I thought, well, if astronauts could use it, the people who need it the most, my ADHD students, children and adults, this is where that comes in. So it's NASA-inspired technology. Tufts University School of Medicine did 3 randomized controlled studies on it, short-term pilot, long-term use, and then after they stopped using it, they went back 6 months later to make certain everybody maintained what they had. And they did. When they studied us on ADHD students in Boston City schools, they found that we had 5 times more than their control groups as far as executive function skills. The control groups were using simple brain games you could buy on the internet, and they had one that got no intervention. We were 5 times, we improved executive function 5 times more than those games did. Those games really did nothing for anybody in that cohort. Then they looked at behavioral regulation. We had 5 times the amount of behavioral regulation that other people did, emotional control, behavioral regulation. I think 4 times more attention than the other groups. And then They also looked at overall school performance, the global performance at school, and that was 3 times more than any of the other students. So it's an incredibly powerful tool you can use to help learn all of these skills that we're talking about. It strengthens attention, organization, planning, memory, and self-regulation. This is the key. I think Cameron was talking about that, which is absolutely imperative, that if you're going to improve, and you could do it as a duo, you help him, he helps you, and you get a bonding with that. You're both in the same boat, but you come and you get to celebrate the successes you have, Cameron. That's a really good point. And it's based on NASA-inspired neurotechnology. I already told you about that. Backed by Tufts research, personalized coaching, and ongoing support. So here's that support area we just kept talking about. Sometimes it's just really hard to do it by yourself. But what if you had a support agent you could contact on a regular basis and they can help? That's also what we do. And it doesn't charge, and there's no other charge. You buy the system, then that person comes along with it for the lifetime of your use. That also gives you the ability to build the skills that make doing better more possible for you, right? Look at those things down there: calmer mornings, better work habits, more confidence, less procrastination, smoother homework time, right? I mean, this is key. When you can control and self-regulate your emotions, no more emotional outbursts. When you have calmer mornings, when you can put the pause on when you need to put it on, right? This is what's important, right? That means we can go down that chain. We can pause, right? We clear, right? All the way down that chain. What feels heavy right now? This is your spring reset reflection. And I think we sent this to you. I hope how many people got that, by the way? Right? Great. Right. So we asked you to write this down. Print it out, write it down. Okay. What is weighing on me, draining my energy, or making it hard to move forward right now? That's your heavyweight. What matters most right now? What matters most right now? So it may be your heaviest weight. I think Alina might say, and I know Alina well, Alina might say, well, what matters right now is my health. That's the heaviest weight on me, and it's the most important thing. I bet you would say that. And I can understand it. Right? Stilling my mind to meditate, to be calm is what matters most right now. Right? Rita says, I have a cluttered home, which is a long-term project. Absolutely. But you see, by the way, we are now a small community, right? We are seeing that we are in the same boat as everyone. All right. Kamisha says, well, it's the same as my heavy weight right now. That's what matters most. I got to get that settled. All right, then. What is one small next step I can take this week? All right. What is one small step I can take this week? What is one realistic action I can take to help myself move forward? Now, don't make the step huge, because you know you're not going to take a huge step. Make it a minor step. Kamisha, maybe it's just a meeting. Maybe it's a 15-minute meeting with your boss. And you just have some clarity. The goal is just clarity. Take notes. All right. Kamisha's going to take small steps by completing a performance evaluation. All right. Lena says, going to check with the endocrinologist. Select one small area. Robert says, one small area to declutter and set 10 minutes to act on it. Perfect. That's not asking you to clean the Empire State Building, which often you probably do to yourself. You walk into your garage, it's a total wreck, and you go, I just need to get clean this whole thing out. Well, one small section of that I could do for 10 minutes, I can do. That's a great action in itself. All of you are writing great things. I hope it's influencing the rest of us that are here. It's inspiring the rest of us here so that we are all seeing, oh, there are some small things I can do to change my life. I hope this is making sense. So you don't have to do it at all, right? Alone. You're not all by yourself. Sometimes the hardest part is not knowing what to do. It is doing it alone. All right. That is the hardest part. If I feel all by myself, sometimes I feel that that is my greatest struggle. Loneliness is higher now among the human population on Earth globally than it has been in any time in recorded history. Now, doesn't that seem odd? Because we have technology like this that allows us to get together like this, right? But it's not the same as meeting face to face. You know, we can get a lot closer when we're on a Zoom call and I can see all of you, but having several hundred people here would be too tough for me to handle. All right. But if you're not alone and you need a little support, then we can actually, we're offering that up to you right now, whether you have play attention or you don't have play attention. We can give you a little encouragement right now. Makes all the difference. Would you like us to check in on you next week so that you do the things that I have in the webinar? Make certain that you follow that little pathway, right? PCCAR. All right. And when you do that, if you want, just say, text me, email me, just type it into the chat. Text me or email me or both, and we will check on you, right? To see what you're doing. We'll do that for you, and it doesn't cost you a thing. We're here to help. That's our goal. And that way we can help each other because sometimes it's just too difficult to do it by ourselves, right? Now, we also have a separate part of play attention, which is called Silver Minds. This is for people who want to keep cognitively vital, right? And for those, and several of the people here I know that have typed in are actually already in Silver Minds. So you can join Silver Minds. If you're not, we have a local in North Carolina here. We have a local Silver Minds meeting spot at our offices, but we also do it in boot camps that are done through Zoom. So you'll get to see your instructor. Everybody there will see you. So again, you're in a community and you'll know each other. The coolest thing I think about the Silver Minds project that is ongoing and is that you get to be part of a community, a small community of 10 people. And we found out, I think, with the folks that are in the current Silver Mine, that two of the people, I think they're in Kentucky or Virginia or something like that, they're just 20 minutes away from each other. And I think they've already made lunch efforts to get together for lunch. And it's nice to know you can be in part of a community. And that is one of the things that happens in Silver Minds. So Silver Minds teaches you all of these steps, right? We use play attention for neurocognitive training. We learn about nutrition and exercise, and we actually do this together so that you can improve your life. And it's a continuing education course. So we're improving our brains the entire time. We also learn mindfulness activities and breathing and moving and stretching. There's just so much in it. You can request a consultation. So This is all free. All right. Consultation is free. That email we're going to send you or the text we're going to send you is free. And then the spring boot camp, Silver Mines. I love Silver Mines. And let me tell you just a little bit about why we developed that. My mom died of dementia. My wife's mom died of dementia. And we looked at each other. We have technology for this. There is no use for this anymore. Cognitive vitality is a fact that we can maintain. And it was very moving. So it still moves me right now. Excuse me. So that's why Spring Boot Camp, Join Silver Mines, was invented, because we know we have the power to augment that. We have the power to help people not go down that road. Or if they do, we can help fix it. And that is why we're doing this right now. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.